After losing our last season of track, Austin, Nick, and I decided to do our project on something related to training and running. We are all primarily sprinters, so we decided to switch it up a bit. We wanted to test the effects of long distance training on sprinters, and we wanted to see if it would benefit us. Due to an injury, Nick couldn't run too much, so we tested out strength training with certain exercises to see how much he could progress in the 2 weeks we had. Austin and I decided to train for something that we would never think we could do or attempt, and that's sub 5 mile. This time in the track world is nothing to be amazed at, but as sprinters, we thought that it would be something amazing to accomplish.
So it was settled. Austin and Alec would be training to run a sub 5-minute mile, while I, Nick, would be working on increasing my strength endurance. On the 18th of May, we each did a baseline assessment. Austin and Alec both did a mile time trial. Austin clocked in with a time of 5:27, and Alec came in right behind with a time of 5:32. Since I have a foot injury, I couldn't run a lot, so I tested how many pull-ups, push-ups, and how long I could hold a plank for. 3 months out of shape, I could only do 40 push-ups, 4 pull-ups, and a minute 30 plank. After the training period was over, we would all retest to see how much we improved.
So the first question we all asked each other was, where the heck do we start? Now, considering we're all sprinters, we really knew nothing about long-distance running. And who better to ask than former Blue Waver Alex Osborne? So we set up a meeting with him early on to basically hear his insight on how to get better at the mile and really start us off and set a plan for the next 2 weeks. So to give you guys a little background, Osborne is the most decorated distance runner in Darien High School history. He was a 6-time All-American in high school, twice for cross country, twice for indoor, and twice for outdoor, and a 6-time All-State athlete. In 2014, he was national champion in the 5K during the outdoor track season with a time of 14 minutes, 16 seconds and change, which was the number 1 time in the country that year. He was also the 2013 and 2014 Gatorade Cross Country Athlete of the Year. He holds 5K course records at 2 parks, and he's the only athlete to run under 15 minutes at one of them. He was the 2014 New England Cross Country Champion, and he holds indoor track records at DHS in the 1600, the 32, the 2 mile, the 4x8 relay, and the distance medley relay. He also holds records for outdoor track in the 16, the 3000, the 32, the 5K, the 4x8 relay, and the distance medley relay. His marks in the 2 mile and DMR indoor and the 32 and 5K outdoor are Connecticut state records. He helped Darien win the 2014 State Open team title and was named Connecticut High School Track Coaches Association Athlete of the Year. Osborne also won the 2 mile at the 2015 New England Indoor Championship and the 3K at the prestigious Penn Relays in 2015. Osborne has spent the last 5 years at Stanford, earning his undergraduate degree. After redshirting his freshman season, Osborne has gone on to be a 3-time All-American in cross country and 2-time All-American in indoor track. He is also a 3-time All-Pac-12 selection. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Osborne was unable to complete his eligibility at Stanford and will have at least 1 season of outdoor track and field eligibility left. He will move on to UNC with his former coach from Stanford. Alex Osborne is an incredibly decorated athlete and an inspiration to many. So first and foremost, Nick, Alec, and I just want to thank him for the time and effort he spent helping us and offer our sincerest forms of appreciation and gratitude. Two major things I took away from the interview were consistency in training and mental toughness. So in a week for Alex, it would typically look like about 80% long distance runs and then some stronger VO2 max workouts. But he would always implement things gradually and never shock his body too hard where he'd be at a great risk of injury. And even though we only had about 2 weeks to complete this project, we understood that we should not overwork ourselves to the point where we cause an injury or extreme muscle fatigue. And the second thing is mental toughness and really just telling yourself you can get through every workout. So at times, the miles would be very hard and my body was not as used to it, but I would tell myself that I could keep going. And for the mile itself, he told us that the 3rd lap is the hardest, and if you get through that, you get through the whole race.
I think the biggest takeaway I got from the interview with Alex was probably just like being consistent and with all their workouts and doing all of them doing every single rep, doing it well, and then also just like having the routine every day. So like whether it be after lunch or lunch, before dinner, just doing it like all at the same time. So like your body and mind is just like ready for it.
I think the one thing that I found really important from the interview with Alex was that he really enjoys the mundane parts of training. He enjoys the really boring days, like really hard workouts, the rainy days where you don't want to get out of bed, but you know you still have to. He said that's what separates him from the rest of from his competition. And I think that's really important because he kind of has like this mental fortitude like no other, saying he enjoys like these boring days and the days that no one else enjoys. And I think that's what makes him that's what separates him from the rest and what makes him such a great athlete. He brought up this quote, or he said this quote, he said, "You can beat 95% of the people showing up with intention." So him showing up with a goal and him knowing what he has to do really affects his performance, and he knows that his hard training and the day after day, him layering his workouts and really working hard, he knows that that will make all the difference in competition.
My training was pretty difficult, but I got used to it near the end. We went on a lot of distance runs, and those were pretty tough in the beginning, but we got used to them. I also did a decent amount of strength training. One day I did a strength lift, and that seemed pretty normal for me. That consisted of like 2 circuits of like body weight exercises that we're pretty used to. And we also did some track workouts that consisted mainly of like 400-meter sprints to get the endurance up, as well as 200-meter sprints, and we do those pretty normally in the season too. Most of the training was different from what I normally do in season because we rarely did a long run in season, but in the past 2 weeks we've gone on like quite a few, like mainly 4 to 5 miles. And we also did workouts on the track that consisted of 800-meter runs, and those are pretty tough. Definitely not used to those, but we need to do them for the endurance part. And yeah. An obstacle that I encountered was the type of shoe to use during the workouts. Normally, you would want a racing shoe that has a softer bottom that is easier on your feet. But as sprinters, we have like plastic bottoms to help us go faster, but they're more harsh on your feet once you go over like 400-meter sprints. Because you're running for that long, it just takes a toll on your feet. So we thought we'd use those instead of just our running shoes though for the mile, because we thought that like we could handle it and it'll help us get the time we want. So yeah.
So my training was basically split between long distance runs, middle distance runs, and VO2 max runs. So after we interviewed Alex Osborne early on in this process, we learned that a lot of his mileage just comes from long distance runs, and that's really meant to build up his endurance. Now obviously we only had like 2.5 weeks, so it's pretty hard to build up your endurance in that short amount of time. But we figured if we could get as many long distance runs in as we could without overdoing it, we could really just work up that lung capacity, and basically get our muscles used to doing longer distance runs. And then we would do some middle distance runs where maybe it'd only be a couple miles, but we try to do it at a faster pace, like closer to race pace. And then finally VO2 max workouts, which VO2 max basically means the amount of oxygen you can utilize while exercising. And in order to build that, you need to really push your lungs. You don't want a lot of rest in between. So we would do some like 400-meter repeats. We do 200-meter repeats, really just focusing on getting good pace going, but also having like 30 seconds rest in between, and just getting right back into the next rep. So the major difference between my training as a 400-meter runner in indoor season and my training now as a miler was the distance in my runs, and really making sure that I was building up that muscle endurance and getting used to just pushing at distances past a mile, and letting my legs know what it feels like to go that far. Whereas in indoor season, when I train mainly for the 400, we would do shorter reps, but at a much faster pace, and really just build up that muscle explosiveness, which isn't as important as a distance runner. So the main obstacle in this is obvious. It's just getting used to the longer distance runs. Coming out of my indoor season, I was a sprinter. I didn't do anything over 400 meters. Now all of a sudden I'm doing miles, 5 miles every single day. So just getting my body used to that. Another obstacle that I encountered was what shoes I train in. Obviously, if I'm going on the road, I'm just going to wear sneakers. It's pretty obvious. But in my practices in indoor season, I would wear spikes because I was doing sprints, and I really wanted that contact with the track, with the spikes. But it strains your calves a lot, and at longer distances, it's really hard to run in those. So it's kind of finding the balance between when do I use spikes and for how long can I actually use them while still getting a good workout. And the final obstacle that I would say was last week I tweaked my back, and I had to do a lot of stretching and recover, and I wasn't able to complete all the workouts near the end. So I just had to get back into shape quickly.
My training was actually pretty hard considering that I started out at almost nothing. I was starting off at 40 push-ups, only 4 pull-ups, and like a little bit over a minute of a plank. So it was a big change from what I was previously doing, because I basically sat on my butt for 3 months straight. So it kind of whipped me into shape, and the training was pretty intense. I was going on mile runs to 2-mile runs like every other day, which was a lot different than what I was used to, because I was previously a sprinter and we never really do that. And along with that, I was also starting to do more weights and doing a lot more body weight workouts, which increased my strength endurance, which would allow me to do a lot better in my second test. What changed from normal is that my sleep schedule changed a lot, because I decided that I wanted to get a lot more sleep to let my body recover, because this workout schedule was like brand new for me. So my body was hurting a lot. So I needed lots of sleep to recover. And on top of this, I made a lot of protein shakes and stuff like that. So that's kind of what changed. So there were actually a lot of obstacles during this. One of them being a fever. So during this fever, I was scared that I was going to lose all my strength that I had been building up. But during the fever, I just decided to let my body rest. And I knew that if I just let my body rest and then I trained hard after it was over, then I would come back just fine. But it was hard dealing with the mental aspect of that, knowing that I was losing days to train. I just knew that if I rested, I would be fine in the end. So yeah.
All right, so just finished up the mile, 5:06.7. I'm really happy with that, actually. I know we're trying to go sub 5, but really we only had 2.5 weeks to do this, and there's only so much time that you can drop in that short amount of time. And for me, dropping 21 seconds in that amount of time was really impressive. So I'm really happy with it. I learned a lot from this experience. Probably won't run distance ever again, but it was a really cool experience. And I learned a lot about myself, and I'm a competitor, so I'm glad. Peace.
Hey guys, we just finished the mile. It was a lot of fun. I dropped like 26 seconds from a few weeks ago. I'm dying though, but no, it was great. All the workouts definitely paid off. We pushed it really hard, and we had a good time. I'm really happy with that. I learned how to just like push it, stay in there mentally, kind of like the 400 and indoor, and it was just a lot of fun. So yeah, see you guys.
Hey guys, I just finished my benchmark, and I finished with 63 push-ups, 12 pull-ups, and a 2-minute 36-second plank, which was a big change from my 40 pull-ups, 4
or 40 push-ups, 4 pull-ups, and minute 30 plank. So I was just, from this project I took away that like it's kind of like insane how much you can improve with just like routine and like dedication, like in less than 3 weeks of work. So I'm really happy to like see how my body adapted to like these changes and how much it improved, and yeah.
While Alec and Austin didn't achieve the sub 5-minute mile they were set out for, all three of us learned a lot about ourselves and a lot about fitness. We're all proud of our advancements we were able to make in the short time period that we had. Thank you.